So as far as what we've seen over the last year, when I'm out in the field, I'm really talking with small business owners and really understanding very, very closely, what the needs are, on the ground. And so, as we know, there's different avenues for access to capital. It might be government grants, for example, personal loans, small business loans, and even angel investors and venture capitalists, depending on the type of industry you're in. And so I think first and foremost, just evaluating which option is the best option for you, as an individual and as a business, because every business is different and has different access to capital needs. So really just understanding and even like getting different quotes from folks too, sometimes folks, if they don't have access or a relationship with an existing lender, for example, they're not sure where to start. And so that's where I'm really excited about this conversation today, because we can help give some guidance, on how to get started. And first and foremost, just, gaining that financial understanding and knowledge is really, that's the first part of, empowering yourself on this journey as far as accessing capital. And so, like I said, I'm super excited about this conversation today. As far as next year, we do have some tips we're happy to share as things for folks to think about when they're getting ready for access to capital. But I don't want to get ahead of Mihai's questions and conversation today, so I'll stop there.
Thank you, Amber. In the Coachella Valley, I think is the first year where FirstBank is initiating Coachella Valley Giving Day, and it's an opportunity for nonprofits in the Inland Empire and this part of the Inland Empire to connect with funders, with donors, and gain visibility on their social impact organizations. Nereida and Guillermo, do you want to talk a bit about the initiative and what have you seen so far? The Coachella Giving Day is in March, if I'm not mistaken. So what have you seen so far from those taking advantage of these opportunities and registering their nonprofits on your as part of your initiative?
Thank you, Mihai, for the introduction. As you mentioned, my name is Guillermo Becerra, and I'm an assistant vice president with FirstBank. I've been working very closely in Coachella Valley Giving Day from kind of since its inception to where we are now. And honestly, we've seen very strong support across the community from different levels, political leaders, influential members of the community, our businesses, and of course our nonprofit community. To date, we have over 130 nonprofits registered. So we're making really good headway there. And it's just been really, really great to see the community coming together to really kickstart this really exciting initiative that we have done in Colorado and in Arizona that has been extremely successful. So, we're just really hoping to make sure that it's also very successful here. And we've definitely put in the homework, put in our efforts and invested, money and resources into making sure that this is successful. So we're really excited about
it. Thank you, Guillermo. So Dale, you bring such different resources to this conversation, and you are not only providing access to these opportunities, but also providing technical support for those that might have never applied for funding to make sure that their application is well written, well designed, well thought. From your experience as part of Open Grants, are there any major let's say conclusions that you have internalized as part of your process and working with small businesses so far in 2022 or since you have started?
Yeah, I think a couple things that are really exciting. One is, there's a huge opportunity in working with the federal and state government, in particular in economic downturns, and whether or not that's going to happen, I think is a whole different discussion. But regardless, that's a great way to diversify your revenue and get access to some really compelling contracts. And one of the things that we talk about a lot at Open Grants, and you talked about technical assistance, we do try to connect folks to PTACs, to all these orgs that people just don't know exist, unfortunately. And so that's one of the things that, I really invite business owners to do is, there's a whole ecosystem of technical assistance that doesn't cost you anything, that can help you go get state and federal contracts and help you secure things like SBIR grants as well. And so that's, our big vision for the next few years is, how can open grants continue to be that connectivity to really open up those opportunities for small businesses. And I do think, we'll see savvy business owners understanding that, when there is a downturn, or as a way to future-proof against, future economic downturns, doing business with the government is a great option. So that's kind of our big takeaway, I think.
And we can take advantage of Amber's knowledge and experience of navigating state resources. Tenale, what's the how many nonprofits, how many for-profits, sole proprietors, what's the balance in terms of those using open grants to look for funding, and do you track also the success of their application?
Yeah, we do. So we have, I'd say about 60% of our users are small businesses. And then another maybe 20% are government. And then there's a smattering of nonprofits and other kinds of, community benefit organizations and other groups like that, impact focused work being done on the platform. And we see between 80 and 180 folks signing up every day. We're closing in on closer to 20,000 different businesses using the platform currently. And one of the big takeaways that we've had from all of that and seeing all that data is that, one, if you work with a TA provider, you're 3 to 4 times more likely to get that contract or get that grant secured. And the other thing that we see frequently is that, there are, generally speaking, you have access to some very low cost or fully subsidized support. Of course, there's opportunities to work with, consultants who are paid and you have to compensate them for their services. But there are some incredible programs that are really effective out there. And the PTACs are one of them, this sort of like unsung heroes of the contracting space. And I think, businesses can really find a lot of value and build a lot of capacity by other services, but it's a great way to get started.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just briefly, high level on our mission and objectives. Our office's goal is to ensure that all California small businesses and innovative startups have the information and direct support they need to better navigate resources, programs, and regulations. We are the voice of small business in the state. We advocate for equitable access to capital, markets, and networks so that California small businesses are able to start, manage, and grow and become more resilient. So access to capital, as we all know, small business owners typically do need capital when starting or growing a business. I already went over some of these items earlier as far as where that capital might come from. We also have, I'm just going to briefly touch on the state small business credit initiative that is in the process of rolling out. And what that will entail is additional resources with our technical assistance providers to assist small businesses to get ready to apply for that funding source. Again, more to come on that. If you're interested, feel free and sign up for our newsletter, which you'll see a link to later in the presentation. We've got a great, super robust website with lots of resources. I highly encourage you to explore the website, and I've included some links here that are pertinent to our conversation today. We have a whole page on different funding programs that are available through our office, as well as the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank has participating lenders for the 80% loan guarantee program and other programs like CalCap. So really good opportunities there. Just some quick tips to think about on your journey to accessing capital. When you're preparing to apply for grants or loans, make sure you have your paperwork ready, accurate, and up to date. Again, I've listed some of the paperwork that might be necessary for these types of grants and loans, but think about, make sure you have your tax returns, business license, registration info, financials all together, et cetera. Do ensure that the information you're submitting is accurate to the best of your knowledge. Make sure you touch base with your key partners. Let's say you have a CPA, maybe a legal advisor or financial advisor, and of course, our technical assistance network is always ready to assist. Make sure you read the grant eligibility criteria to determine if you want to proceed with applying. Also, please don't be discouraged with the time it takes to review your application. Making sure you qualify and you're eligible for the funding is a critical part of the process before releasing the funds. Entrepreneurs that are seeking funding should really focus on these top things for this coming year. Building your personal and small business credit profiles and financials is mission critical as part of this process. Contacting the statewide network, again, of technical assistance providers, you're going to hear that over and over this morning, which is great. They are a super resource that our office helps to partially fund for your low-cost business consulting services. Start networking with traditional and alternative lenders. See what your options are on the market. Different lenders have different, terms that they might present as part of a quote. So again, understanding, developing that financial knowledge and accessing those resources is super important as part of this process. Sometimes folks maybe may not think about this, but this is a good thing to think about, is to engage with your local economic developer. Typically, cities, counties, towns, and municipalities have somebody that's covering economic development. So find out who that person is wherever you're at and really get in touch with them. They're there to be that connective tissue as well, in addition to the technical assistance partners, to help you connect with resources and other capital partners that might be in your local community. Do attend other funding panel events like this to learn more. And also look into our community development finance institutions and financial development corporations as another opportunity. And we have a tool for finding those on our website. We also, just for awareness, we've launched the Entrepreneurship and Economic Mobility Task Force, and one of the groups is working on democratizing access to capital. So there is more coming on that, and we're really excited to see how that group, is contributing to the accessing to capital ecosystem. Just really quick, I'm going to highlight some of these. I know this is a lot, but our technical assistance and capital infusion programs, we have over 100 plus small business technical assistance centers statewide, including the PTACs, as well as small business development centers and women's business centers. So please do reach out to your resources. We've got some links here you can help yourself to afterward. As Mihai mentioned earlier, the California Dream Fund training has wrapped up. So that was a one-time $35 million entrepreneurship and small business creation grants. We're super proud of that program. And we're seeing wonderful small business success stories and nonprofit success stories come out of that program as well. The Accelerate California Inclusive Innovation Hubs. Currently, we have 10 innovation hubs designated throughout the state, and those are really helping science and tech-based startups really, capitalize on specific technical assistance, as well as maybe pursuing patents and other things to really move their technology or science-based business into a thriving business. And more information there on our website. We had a wonderful program that we launched, which is the COVID Small Business Relief Grant Program. Applications are closed for that, but you can see here what the awards were for that program. Micro Business COVID Relief Grant that just opened this week in LA County. So if you are in the LA County area, I just wanted to highlight that for you. And there is access to $2,500 micro grants for micro businesses. For that, you need to have 50,000 or less in annual revenue and 5 or fewer employees. There's also the California Nonprofit Arts and Culture Program. While that's currently closed, that will be opening soon. At the end of this presentation, I have links to our newsletter. Do connect with our newsletter and get on that subscription list, because you'll see when we activate programs, as well as when programs are closing, we do announcements through that avenue, as well as our social media channels. California venues, that is closing right around the corner on January 31st. So if you know of an independent venue that might qualify or be interested in this program, please, please, please get them to submit their application ASAP, because that is closing on January 31st. We also have our California Nonprofit Performing Arts Grant Program. Those applications are currently open for that. And that is for theater and dance companies, musical groups, artists, and other performing arts companies. Okay, and so we have current expanding and we're doing some amazing things with our grant programs this coming year as well. Active now is our Women's Business Center Enhancement Program, which will be an $8 million infusion to the technical assistance for women-owned businesses and women entrepreneurs over the next 3 years. For the Accelerate California Inclusive Innovation Hubs, we're also expanding those from 10 to 13 hubs, and we're also adding seed capital. So we're actually going to be providing acceleration grants to spur those industries. We also have the Social Enterprise Rise program, which is a $25 million program to accelerate economic mobility and inclusion for individuals who experience employment barriers. We also have the Small Agricultural Business Drought Relief Grant Program, which is $75 million that will help small business agriculture operations affected by drought. We have the Small Business and Nonprofit Supplemental Paid Sick Leave Grant Program. I've heard a lot of questions from folks on that, so I do definitely want to highlight that as part of this conversation today. It's $150 million for qualified businesses and nonprofits with employee range from 26 to 49 employees that had COVID-19 supplemental paid sick leave costs. So we are working on launching that program as soon as possible. And also we are offering our newsletter, and we have an at-a-glance CalSBA program overview as well that we're providing here. Public relations and marketing. So telling the success stories of our small businesses is super important as part of this access to capital journey. So again, I've provided some resources here. We also have business quick start guides on our website. So depending on the industry that you're in, just you check out the quick start guide that's relevant to that industry, and a ton of resources there to get you started as you're before you sign up for your technical assistance appointment with our providers. Again, we have our social media channels to connect with as well. And that is the conclusion of my presentation today.
We have our online portal, our online application portal, which is civicgivingday.org. Nonprofits can go on, visit that website and complete our application through there. The application is, we try to simplify it as much as possible. It's very streamlined, easy to do. It's a two-step process. You submit the necessary well, first you want to look at the eligibility requirements that we have listed on the web page. Kind of the main ones is you have to be a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and you have to provide services in the Coachella Valley. There's additional eligibility requirements listed there, but those are kind of the two main ones. Then you register through our website. After you register, we have an administrator that reviews and approves all the incoming applications. Primarily approves based on eligibility requirements. Upon which time, once they're approved, they finalize a profile, and once they finalize the profile, we give it a second approval, and then they get uploaded to a Coachella Valley Giving Day website. All the nonprofits that are registered, they're listed on the Coachella Valley Giving Day website, and when you're completing your registration process, you're asked to provide keywords associated that can help donors identify your nonprofit. For example, like if your nonprofit provides services for youth development, for homelessness, you're gonna find those keywords. So when donors are looking to support a certain cause, there's a category drop-down menu in the Coachella Valley Giving Day website that gives them the ability to find nonprofits that fit a specific purpose that they would like to support. So that's in short, that's kind of how the website works. We're also, we're gonna do a pretty comprehensive media campaign starting January 31st. You're gonna start seeing Coachella Valley Giving Day across different media platforms. You're gonna see it through several newspaper outlets. You're gonna see it on TV, primarily through KSQ, and you're also gonna see it through targeted social media marketing. So we're really, shooting this out in kind of every direction that we can, because the primary purpose is for the whole community as a whole, engaging the whole community in kind of this effort to support the nonprofits. We're really excited about this because, as we know, during COVID, our community had very trying times, and the nonprofits that serve our community were really vital to providing crucial resources and services to make sure our community was well taken care of. And after the pandemic and with inflation, we talk to nonprofits very frequently, and they're suffering. The donations are definitely decreasing. There's definitely a shift in the donor pool with the changes in demographics. One of the biggest purposes of Coachella Valley Giving Day is to make sure we're engaging the whole community as a whole, but also introducing your untraditional donor into philanthropy, and also engaging new generations of donors to philanthropy as well. This is this is a huge, massive effort, and but we try to simplify it for the nonprofits, and we're really trying to bring awareness to the great work that the nonprofits do in the Coachella Valley. So yeah, in short, that's kind of what it is. I try to summarize it as much as possible to not kind of overwhelm the audience.
Thank you, Guillermo. And I think, what people don't realize is how the huge contribution of nonprofits to the economy, especially in, I think, California and Southern California, the Inland Empire, they play such a massive role, not only to provide services, but also to the economy through the contribution that employment, providing decent wages and good working conditions to the nonprofit employees. So disregarding nonprofits, I think it's not healthy for the community or for the economy. That's where we should look to. So Dale, I like the fact that we are switching from the nonprofit support to what you are doing, and you mentioned that most of your beneficiaries and those interacting with open grants are for-profit businesses. So can you tell us more about some of the opportunities you are available and more about open grants, how small businesses can take advantage of this tool? And is it, I think the first question, that is it focusing on California? Is it national? Can small businesses that are in other parts of the world take advantage of open grants?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of thoughts I want to share. One is,
Please.
I think one of the really exciting things about open grants is that it does cover any grant funding that emanates from the United States. So that means if you're doing business overseas or if you're doing work overseas, you could leverage, USAID or other money. So it is quite expansive, and also, drills down to be very granular. So, for example, one of the really exciting things that I'm personally excited about is that CalSeed is coming back in California, and that small businesses can apply to get $250,000 in funding for their energy innovations. And there's so much. I mean, businesses in California have access to so many resources. Amber was just talking about just GoBiz, and there's so many other agencies that have really robust grant funding. And to give the for-profit businesses in particular a couple points on just what the space looks like. In 2019, there was $181 billion invested by government into small businesses, for-profit businesses. So grants are certainly not just the space for the nonprofit world. And the other really cool thing, and we just did a session on this this month, in fact, is that you can use a fiscal sponsor. So if you're a for-profit business, but you're doing something impactful like workforce development or workforce training, or you're helping the unhoused population, so whatever it might be, if you're doing some impact work, you could team up with a fiscal sponsor in some cases, sometimes not, but in many cases you can work with a fiscal sponsor and get access to grant funding for that impact related work that you're doing. So just really encourage folks, and you'll actually see on the Open Grants platform, we don't have an eligibility selector. Like, there's no filter for that on our platform. And the reason for that is we deeply believe in the opportunity you have to partner with, and we know it's a really effective thing to do. You could partner with your local government. You could partner with your local economic development folks. You could partner with a fiscal sponsor. There's a lot of ways to access that capital. So it is quite expansive, what we cover. And the reason for that is that we're really focused on the impact that needs to be created. So whether that's job creation or starting your business or putting, electric vehicle charging in front of your business, whatever it is that you're working on, focus, come to the conversation with that impact that you want to create in mind, rather than, what weird legal hoops do I have to jump through? And a lot of that, all the hoops, that's the stuff that you can work with your technical assistance providers on. Like, you as the small business owner, that burden should not necessarily be on you. And there's really great resources. Amber mentioned just a plethora of resources, and there's a lot of other agencies that have similar support ecosystems in place, and you can access a lot of that via open grants. So you just, the thing that we want people to understand is, like, if you want to get something done, say you want to hire more people, or you want to transition your fleet over to electric vehicles, or you want to, get capital to start your business, there's, come with the impact in mind. Like, what are you trying to get done? and solve all the other details along the way. But there's a lot of really smart, excellent people who can help you work out those intricacies, as long as you're coming with the energy and the intention and like the will to get it done. We could take care of the rest of that. And the state and like the federal government has an incredible network to help you along the way.
May I add to that really quick?
Please.
I think also to increasing awareness, for example, that iBank program with the state loan guarantee program that I mentioned earlier, that's also available to nonprofits as long as they are not registered as lobbying nonprofits, right? So just increasing awareness about that. Some folks just assume that's for small businesses only. And so nonprofits can absolutely access that tool and that resource as long as they're not lobbying.
A little bit about FirstBank, right? FirstBank is the largest privately held in the nation. And one of the things that, just like any other financial institution, right, we provide a variety of services, both for businesses for profit and non-for-profit. Obviously, there are different lending opportunities for businesses that are for profit, right? And I think a lot of times when people start looking at lending or looking at financing opportunities, it's when they actually need them. But really the work starts before that, right? And it really starts with, and obviously you've seen this with the Seed 2.0 project, right? But having a strong business plan, there's just a lot of different things, right? Educate yourself on business loans, right? If you don't necessarily need it now, there will come a time where you do. And I think it's always a pre-work, right? So educate yourself on business loans, build and maintain your credit. I think that's a really big misconception across the board for businesses for profit and non-for-profit. A lot of times you do need a personal guarantee, especially when you're starting out. And I think a lot of times people do fail to realize that they kind of intertwine. Get your finances in order, decide what type of loan you need. Find the collateral, document your business plan, right? Obviously, your business is growing and changing. Your audience might change. So that's also what you need to determine what kind of loan you're looking for, right? Choose the right lender and plan for the right time, right? A lot of times people fail to realize that who you should be banking with is someone who's going to be there for you down the line, and talk to them about, hey, I'm not ready for this now, but when I am ready or when I'm looking to grow at this stage, what do I need? And I think that's a lot of times what people fail to realize. Obviously, realizing what kind of entity type to start with, and who your audience is. And I think a lot of times that's what you, obviously with the Caravanserai project and the new cohorts that you guys are working on, you guys have helped them tremendously with that. So I think that's just really important across the board, right? Obviously, poor credit history, maybe limited cash flow, I think a lot of times is hard. I think something I'd really want to point out right now during the beginning of the year, which is tax season for everyone, is none of the information we give is meant to replace financial advice, right? Get with a CPA, get with your attorney. But a lot of times we do encounter this where businesses do write off a lot, both for profit and non-for-profit. If you are writing off that much, or trying to, in a way, evade taxes, it will be hard for you to obtain financing. And I think a lot of times people kind of seek the advice of other people that aren't meant to supplement that financial or that expert advice.